Hey y'all, it's David Ducker coming back at you, and today I'm going to be doing a To Another Shore retrospective. To Another Shore is the Blue Planet campaign we've just finished. We used GURPS 3rd edition for the rule set, and we just finished it about 2 weeks ago, so I thought I should do a retrospective video. What have I learned from the campaign? What went right? What went horribly wrong? And there was a lot that went horribly wrong. This is probably the worst campaign I've ever run. Uh, like, there was one bad session that I ran. I thought it was bad. In Return of the Rune Fangs, there was one. And at least one of the players thought it was good. But I thought it was a terrible session. To Another Shore. It's like, there were so many atrocious, horrendous, terrible sessions into Another Shore. So it's like 99% of all the bad games I've ever run were To Another Shore. And then there was this one session in Return of the Rune Fangs that was bad. That was because it was built around a character who didn't show up. James Duffy did not show up for game, and the whole session was built around his character. And the result sucked. And I'm sure there was a reason we couldn't do a one-shot that night. Like, our timetable was all messed up. But anyway, Rune Fangs aside, To Another Shore. I believe I did a campaign pitch video. But basically the pitch was that we will be refugees from Earth. And we will be traveling through space. We'll arrive on the blue planet, this water world. And then we'll have, our overarching adventure there. So my instruction for the players was basically make a character who wants to leave Earth and go to Poseidon and needs to be smuggled from Earth to Poseidon, because we were doing this whole smuggler gimmick as well. And my plan as a GM, my plan is we'll get these individuals together. At first, they'll be scattered. They won't know each other. They won't like each other. But we're going to spend, hopefully we get 5 sessions on Earth with the smugglers, trying to get these guys to help them out before they can take off. So that'll forge them into a team. Then we're going to have 5 sessions on the spaceship heading from Earth to Poseidon. And we'll have some calamities along the spaceship. And that will forge these guys into a team. So that by the time we arrive on Poseidon, we have a tight team. So I did not tell them to make a tight team. The plan was to forge a tight team. And I made this clear to my players. I said we're going to start loose. We're going to take 10 sessions just to get there, like half the campaign. We'll be just getting there. So by the time we actually get there, you guys should be really tight. So make sure, try to get your characters tight. Because some of them don't mind a little bit of metagaming, and some of them do, and that's fine. And if somebody gets killed, if somebody hates the party and needs to split, when we get to Poseidon, at that point, you can bring in a new character who would hook up with the party tight, and then we get the native angle. That was my plan. So I had this little safety valve that when we get there, we can bring in a new characters. So the party is completely disunited. They're so disunited I can barely get them to do a mission for the smugglers, even one. So there's only 1 session on Earth instead of 5. Blast off, hidden through space, and I'm looking at them, and I'm looking at, I've got this list of space calamities that I could go through, and I'm looking at the team and the party, because I don't want to throw something at them that someone can't participate in. If they're a really good player, they'll find a way to participate, but we had 3 new players. Our 3 existing players were very good, but we had half the party was new. So I didn't, I wanted to metagame and protect them and keep them from sitting on the sideline all session. But with the player roster I had, I'm like, there's no one adventure all of these guys can participate in. You know, we had like a scientist, a different kind of scientist, a gangster, a different kind of gangster, and we had like a space marine cyborg, and we had somebody else too. Now I got to run through the characters in my head. But anyway, without doing that, I'm like, how can I? The scientists will never get into combat, and the combat characters will never get down with science, and the space marine won't put up with politics. The scientists have no reason to put up with politics. Nobody, you know, and only one or two characters have engineering skills to give them an engineering challenge. And it was like, there wasn't a lot there for me to work with. So we only did, you know, one thing in space. I think it took maybe 2 sessions. So instead of 10 sessions forging the tight unit, we only got 3 forging the tight team. They get to Poseidon. So we do a little gimmick on the space station before they go down. And that did really forge them as well as could be done. And then they went down and they hit Poseidon. And everybody started to like splinter and fragment, and they didn't have direction. And it was like the worst mess of a campaign ever. And there's 2 reasons for that, I believe. One is they weren't tight enough, obviously. So that's partially my fault, if not wholly my fault. And 2 was attendance. Is that our players, some of them missed half the sessions. Some of them probably missed more than half. And because of that, you lose momentum. You forget what happened last time because it's been so long. So that was like a big issue. And built into that, I will say for attendance, there were so many times that we couldn't even get enough people to run at all that, you know, instead of taking 20 weeks, it took us 50 weeks to complete 20 sessions. So not only are people missing half the sessions, but sessions are only happening on average every other week. So nobody can remember what's happening, what's happened. There's no momentum and excitement about the game because of that. So I'll run down some of the characters. We had Alfonso de Cavallero Jr. He's a gangster. He thinks that he's a clone of his father, and he hates his father. He's got a lot of self-hate issues. He wants to become the head gangster on Poseidon. Then we've got his sidekick, Gail Babylon, his consigliere. So their storyline is going to be coming down. I've got 3 gangs. Each had like 10 NPCs, so I got 30 NPCs, plus the police and the reporters in the big city, the mega city of Poseidon. So it's going to be gang warfare. You know, Scarface, The Godfather. That's the storyline of these 2 characters. Now, we have the 2 scientists. We had Dr. Terence Hawthorne and Dr. Roberto de Boucher. One is a planetologist, and the other is a hydrologist. So they're investigating whether the planet has been terraformed or not. So their storyline is going to take them all over the planet. They have to survey the entire planet. They're taking core samples, they're dealing with the natives, they're dealing with the mega corporations, rival scientists, meddling with their research, the ancient ruins that may or may not be human. So there's 2 very, very different storylines right there. And then we have Motoko Sugiyama, who is a space marine cyborg. She's on the run from the military. She's just trying to find some place to fit in. She's kind of bouncing between these 2 player groups, and they're kind of tight, but they're just loose enough to cause problems, and they're not really tight enough to overlap like as well as they should. And the last character was Garth. What was Garth's last name? Everyone just called him Garth because James Vanderhyde is basically playing a 10-year-old kid. And he has psychic powers, so the mind police are after him. They want him to join, and he's on the run. He doesn't want to join. So he's hooked up with the gangsters. He's been adopted by the head gangster, wants to raise this psychic child into the ultimate gangster. So that's our cast of characters. But it was so split and so fragmented, and people would forget what they were doing. Dr. Roberto went through a genetic modification to turn himself into a fish person, because the natives of Poseidon, of the water world, have also modified their genes to become fish people. So he's coming in and they're saying, oh, you're just like us. You've taken on this burden. You're going to get all this racism that we get from the regular humans is going to be directed at you. And you knew this and you did it anyway. And they're fascinated by him. All the natives think he's like the great white hope, but he's not white. He's blue. He's a fish person. So he's got this great storyline, and he never pursued it. I think he forgot because his attendance was so bad and the game was so spread out that he forgot about that whole storyline, and he never pursued it. He never drove in that direction. Nor did he drive in the direction of his mega corporations, his corporate overlords, and I think it's because of his attendance of the player. He was there so infrequently. He'd come in the middle of a 3-part storyline, and then he'd try to figure out what was going on, and before he could launch his own storyline, he'd miss another session. And then when he come back in, he's in the middle of something that's already been started without him. All right, so it's not his fault in game. He didn't have the chance to drive it forward. So that caused major problems. The main gangster character, Alfonso, his player was there. He had the exact same issue. So the campaign really just became about this planetary survey. And part of the way through that, our lead character in that, Dr. Terrence Hawthorne, his player decided that he was bored of the character. And so he wanted to launch a new character. So everything that we built up with Terrence was either wasted or put on hold, depending on how you want to look at it, but there was no real payoff. There was no emotional release from that character. And part of that is because of the character himself, which is why Mike wanted to transition to a new character. But what a huge waste of time that was then. And the new character then needs to take up, I think he took up about 3 sessions just getting introduced. So you could learn his NPCs, his political alignment, his plot hooks, his goals. So out of 20 sessions, how many have we wasted? And then we've spent at least 3 getting this guy introduced and acclimated. And out of 20 sessions, that's a lot. A lot. So eventually they stumble upon the main plot. They find out the planet was terraformed. There were aliens. They did it. They're still here. And their technology is still here. And the original plan was a big race. All the mega corporations trying to get this tech. All the gangsters trying to get this tech. The government, the police, everybody wants it. It's nanites. And there's no nanotech in this setting. But these advanced aliens had it. So now there's this, it was supposed to be 5 sessions going through different ruins, underwater, at the ice caps, whatever. Going through the alien ruins, trying to find a map, piece together a map, find clues to the location of the vault of nanites. And while you're doing this, you got 7 other factions fighting for it. That was supposed to be 5 or 10 sessions, half the campaign. And then the finale is when they finally find the vault, and they go to the vault, and we get the nanites with the final showdown with all the other factions, all the NPCs. And we see who ends up in control of the nanites, or are they destroyed? And if someone has control of the nanites, we're going to epilogue. We're going to say what happened next. And just tell that story after our characters have lost their agency within the story. Because once your agency is gone, end the campaign right there, and we'll epilogue through everything else. So we never got the big chase. We basically had like 2 factions instead of like 10. There were only 2 that we really interacted with that much. There was ours at the gang Alfonso was setting up, and there were the Mind Police, because Mike's new character, the one who took 3 sessions to intro, his gimmick was he was on a runaway psychic, just like little Garth. And he wanted to adopt Garth, and there's this custody battle, and Garth is like, I'm old enough to make a decision. Great role-playing scenes, great NPCs, but they very quickly, we got the location of the nanites, and we went out, and the 2 factions slugged it out. The players ended up in control of the nanites, specifically Mike's new runaway psychic character, and we epilogued through. So that was it. But when I look at 20 sessions and what it could have been versus what it actually was, it was so spread out. It's like taking if you eat like jam or you eat Nutella or something, you got your jar and you're like, oh, there's a little bit left, and you hook it out, and like, do you want to take this little bit of spread and like get it over this like 2 pieces of bread, or do you want to get it and just like over 1 bite and just and you take that 1 bite and it's the best bite ever, and that's great, instead of just 2 slices where like you can barely taste it and it's kind of dry and it's mostly bread. I don't want that. I want all killer, no filler. That's why it was only 20 sessions, very condensed. It's what it was supposed to be. 10 sessions getting there, 10 sessions with the chase through, and then the big finale. And that's basically it. But instead it was like 3 sessions getting there, and then like 10 sessions like not really doing anything. Like just like starting a quest and then leaving, and then starting a mission and then leaving, and not really accomplishing anything. And the cast would change every game. Totally different cast almost. And then finally, we got like 4 or 5 sessions where it's like, oh, we found the nanites and they know about it, and now we got to get to the vault, and then we have the showdown. So that's what it ended up being. So that's my overview in great detail. To look back at what I did wrong, what I could have done, I should have got them tight from the get-go. We should have made a really tight team from the get-go. A unified goal, purpose, style, and technique. And I think that would have changed everything. And the only other thing that really caused problems was the attendance and the scheduling. That's really beyond my control. I was there every session. I could have been there every week. We could have had 50 sessions in this time frame instead of 20. And that's money left on the table. That's wasted time, effort, and energy, in my opinion. So plan for success. I always say it, and I didn't do it. I thought we'd have 10 sessions to forge a team, and we didn't end up having that. We should have metagamed. We should have done it right from the get-go, right from session 1, and it would have made all the difference in the world. But we didn't do it, so I had the worst campaign ever. And it's a real shame because Blue Planet's so great as a setting. It's a sci-fi game about a water world written by oceanographers. That's hard to beat. But we beat it. Not in a good way. We beat it to death. So I have learned my lesson. I hope I will now be practicing what I preach. I won't get so cocky and think that it's a great GM. I can break my own rules. I can break the rules of the game. No, no, no. Everyone must follow the rules. Keep it simple. Plan for success. I'm going to do it next time, and I will succeed. And until I see you again, I hope that you're succeeding at gaming, at life, and I wish you a good day.